Greetings, Algo artisans. Bitcoin is dumping.
Dump it.
How low will it go? We're going to take a look at the charts right now. Okay, so here we are on the daily chart. Bitcoin has seen a significant pullback from its recent high of about 71,300. This is just a few days ago when it hit that local high. The all-time high happened back here, where I'm going to draw this line, and this was on the 13th of March, and that high was at about 74,000. Price retraced about 17.5%, which is pretty significant. Before the halvings, we do see pullbacks of 20 to 30%, much bigger in 2020, but I don't count that one because that was part of the COVID crash. But the data points do suggest that we would see 20 to 30% pullback prior to the halving, because that's just what's happened before. Now, that's not a strong thesis because there have only been so many halvings. Just with that being the case, I'm not counting on a 20 to 30% move back, but it is part of my matrix of what might happen because so far that is what has happened. And we've seen 17.5 as demonstrated by this, so that pullback could be done. We might not see price go any lower than it went, which was 60,000, just below 61,000. Now price does seem to be rotating and creating what is a range, so it's not the cleanest range, and it might not be completely established, but it does seem that price wants to bounce between about 72,300 and about 60,700, right? And I do believe that price probably go to the bottom of this range. We'll take a look in a minute at what price might do, but these boxes that I drew in here, those are liquidity points that were there this morning. And as a matter of fact, we'll go ahead and take a look at liquidity on the Kingfisher to see if liquidity points are still in existence, because price likes to go to these, okay? So here's the Kingfisher. There is a lot of liquidity now. This actually has changed pretty substantially since this morning. Now there is a fair amount very close by, sitting at about 65,200. Not too far above price now is liquidity at about 67,400, and that's significant. 67.4, and then a big block of it. So 68.9 to 69.5. That's a big block. So price is very likely, I think, to head up to this area where this box is right there. That's a lot of liquidity in a very small space. And then 67 to 67.4. I mean to say there is a little bit there. That's just above price right now, and price may go ahead and bounce up and grab that, and then grab this up here at the top. However, we need to take a look at the algos to see if the charts favor a move down or up, because that is probably what will happen next, as there is a tiny bit of liquidity, as we said, down at 65.2. So just a little bit right below price. So price may just jump down there and grab that liquidity before it does anything. It's really close to price, and the algos here they're a little bit bearish, but they could flip around. They could turn back around to be bullish. Now this is on the daily. I could tell you on the weekly, it actually looks similar. I mean, it's overall bullish, but it looks like price wants to take a break and take a rest. So we really could see price possibly just go back and forth in that range until it doesn't. And for the moment, I would venture to guess price will head down, grab this liquidity, and quite possibly head down to the bottom of this range. Even though there isn't any liquidity on the liquidation nodes on Kingfisher, that doesn't mean that there's not liquidity, right? Because there are people who their orders are not on the books, but they are ready to buy some in certain areas that are not reflected in Kingfisher. And that's actually very clear down here based on this old liquidity node that does continue to get touched every so often. So I really think there's a decent possibility of price either grabbing this liquidity and then popping up to grab this strong node and then heading down, or simply just heading down. That can happen too, either way. Now, I'm not, those are just data points. Doesn't mean I'm going to trade based on just that information. I'm going to use my algorithms to give me a clue as to when price is going to move. And then once I know when price is going to move, or at least once I have an idea as to when price is going to move, that's when I'm going to pay attention to these liquidity nodes, right? So why the drop? Well, this actually occurred across markets. The dollar, the actual 10x yield, the bond yields, those spiked a bit. We had a couple of geopolitical events that might have something to do with it, and this is actually reflected in the SP 500. So let's end all of the indexes, the Dow, SP, NASDAQ, everything. Everything took a move. So we'll take a brief look at the rest of the markets and understand that Bitcoin is subject to traditional finance. This is a very important lesson here, where Bitcoin is not operating in a vacuum. And if the rest of the market takes takes a hit, Bitcoin will take a hit too. If there's a major crash in markets, Bitcoin probably will majorly crash down. And we have seen that. And I'm going to go back in time here on the weekly chart to 2022, because this crash, this yellow line right there, that was the prior halving. That crash occurred right in the middle of what was supposed to be the run up to the bull. And this is the COVID crash right here. So Bitcoin went in the middle of what was supposed to be a bull market from $10,000 to $3,000. That is a massive dump, 64%. And that's why I don't count this as a pre-halving crash in my data, right? Because COVID, pushed this down. But if I were to overlay, I like the SP 500, so we'll just overlay that. And you'll see the SP 500 fell at the same time as Bitcoin. And this dip down isn't necessarily more dramatic. This is not on the same percent scale. It's just there to show you that the SP 500 fell and Bitcoin fell with it. And pretty much everything fell at that time. If there is a panic in markets, everybody goes to the dollar. Even still, a lot of people think that the dollar is starting to be out of fashion, but that simply is not the case. The dollar is the most fungible and trusted asset out there, despite some of the issues that it has. So if there is a major market panic in traditional finance, which I call TradFi, we will see Bitcoin and everything else most likely go down. I would bet on that. So let's go ahead and take a brief look at the SP 500 right now. And you can see on the weekly chart that it too has fallen. Now it's already started to recover, but we did see a big move down. And this is in the last 3 days, but especially today, SP 500 dropped a little over 1 or 2%. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, 1.9, 1.8% doesn't sound like much at all, but this is the SP 500. This is where a huge amount of the entire world's money is, right, in the American markets. Now, we do see these moves down every so often, so it's not a big reason to panic, right? If we look back here, we see it, strong move here in February, strong move here at the beginning of March. It's not like these things are unheard of. One of the concerns, though, is that the market tried to rally up against what we have is effectively a double top, and a double top is a bearish formation. So this could be actually the beginning of a wider drop because you have this double top formation. Areas where price might go to would be if this does continue down, which already it is starting to recover. But if it does continue down, if the markets are not held up, maybe on the S&P 500 5160, 5060, 4960, it seems that the 60s are important here. Interesting thing to point out there that, we could see a move that continues down to any of these points. However, given that this is an election year and the geopolitical events are not huge events, then I think that price will continue to be held up. And if that is the case, right, if the equities markets are held up, then we'll probably see Bitcoin act as we expect. And I think Bitcoin probably will not break below that 60,500 area. If it does, I think it'll be brief. This does give us some insight as to what might happen towards the halving. So back to Bitcoin very quickly. I expect at some point for Bitcoin to grab liquidity down here just above 60,000 into the low 60s, and then probably range a little bit there and head back up. That's what I think is the most likely scenario for Bitcoin, but a lot of things can happen. And as price goes into these areas, I will reevaluate the market and I will let everybody know what I think is going to happen next. So I do hope that this was helpful. If you want to know more about what we do, today was almost all basic price action assessments, right? Now, I did use my algos to give me an idea of what might happen next, of which way the wind was blowing, but this was all pretty basic, and we teach all this stuff over at algofactory.tech. All right. So what we also do is we help people build a trading method that allows them to be able to pull money out of the market either on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, depending on how they design their trading method and their level of success. So we hope to see you over there. Remember, trade your job, upgrade your life. See you on the next one.